It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome into the South Point Studio. It is Sports by the Book. Happy to be with you for day 2 of our journey. I'm Jeff Parles, alongside Vinny Magliulo, as always, the Hall of Famer himself.
Morning, Jeffrey.
Good to
You ready
see
for
you.
a little college football?
There's football today?
That's right.
There we go.
Yeah.
Nice third full Saturday of college football. Vinny, before we get into today's action last night, Army wins outright
Yes.
in San Antonio. You have Maryland get down 14-0 only to explode and cover with ease when it's all said and done. And then Air Force gets it done in the late night last night.
So you had to sweep the board, didn't you? Right? You had to remind us how what a great start you got off to.
It was a bad night for you guys.
Well, it was a better night for your side of the counter, and that's okay. That's okay. As you can tell, we're still open, and we'll be here all day.
It's still open. Okay, thanks, Vinny. I will say, I had nothing at all last night. Not one on any of those 3 games. Scared off of that Army game once Harris went out.
Yeah.
Should have just taken Army like I considered it the bigger numbers, but I didn't know what those backups were going to look like for UTSA. Army had possession for 41 minutes last night.
Well, that's
That's
typical.
what they do when they're right.
That's typical Army, right?
Yeah.
The academies will play that way. That's they're very disciplined. No real. I don't think that's surprising to anyone. But Army in particular, I mean, we should probably start putting up props. 2 props, right? Over and under on how many pass attempts there'll be for Army. And it's always in single digits. Or will they throw a pass at all? Yes or no? But that's their game, Jeff, and it works out for them. And when they're right, that time of possession is as valuable as points, and it leads to points and keeps the other team obviously off the field offensively.
Going into today, Vinny, before we get into these individual games, as always, the props that Chris Andrews and you guys do in the back for these college football Saturdays, and also as well for the NFL Sundays. For the first team to score a touchdown of the day, time of game, guys, not time of day. Don't go running to the window.
Yeah.
When Kansas State scores at 9:07 a.m. Pacific, but they're scoring later in the game than Wisconsin is against Georgia Southern, guys.
So what we'll do is that's important, right? Because especially I think folks realize it now. You're not going to be looking at your watch in terms of the time of day when a team scores. But we'll take the early games and we'll put up, probably, about a dozen and a half, 20 teams to get those early games, the first team to score by time of game and put a price up to it. And then who's going to have the most points scored on the day? So if there's a team that you like, Jeffrey, if you think Boston College, for instance, is going to have the most points scored today, what would you like to take on that? 100 to 1?
100 to 1?
1,000 to 1?
Can you give me 75,000 to 1?
I'll give you 1,000.
Well, I'm going to save my money then.
Yeah. But Florida State 30 to 1. Wisconsin today. And of course these are based on what? How do we calculate these, right? Based on the opponent and the projected outcome of the game. So Wisconsin, one of the shorter prices today at 12 to 1. But Michigan and Alabama,
makes sense.
Huge favorites, right? 40-some-odd point favorites, and at 8 to 1. So
Vinny, I'll ask you this, because Wisconsin, they're right out of the gate today.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time a Wisconsin game was in the 60s for a total? It's been a while.
Well,
65 behind us here at the South Point. The rest of the market actually has moved to 65.5.
I think this one will keep going up too. Weather looks pretty favorable. Wisconsin has to get back on track after that last loss, and you know what? They've given up points too, and Georgia Southern can put some points on the board. So it's certainly not. We're not anticipating a defensive grind out game there.
20.5 as well. Wisconsin favored by that against Georgia Southern. Wisconsin last week went up to the Palouse and got beat by Wazoo. Pac-12. We kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday. The Pac-12. Vinny, I think they are the strongest conference in the country. The SEC is the worst it may have been in 15, 20 years at this point.
Outside of Georgia, yes. A lot of transition going on, I think, in the SEC. And, of course, that transition will continue, next year. A massive recruiting game last week with the Texas-Alabama.
Texas and Oklahoma coming in next
result
year.
In Oklahoma, they both, Texas and Oklahoma, as you mentioned, come to the conference. You know, when Chris Andrews and I, we put our power ratings together, we also, you really rate conferences, too, because strength of a conference really translates or helps you to define the individual teams as well. I've got to be honest with you, and it's been a pleasant surprise. Pac-12 is really I think we had underestimated it a bit early on, but that's that great exercise too that we do with our games of the year early on, and getting some intel early from professional bettors in particular, that will come in and play those games. So there is, a sequence that we look for on our side of the counter to help us to create and to manage and adjust power ratings.
The Pac-12 is not going to exist next year.
Okay.
And it's the best they've been since they've been the Pac-12 as opposed to the Pac-10.
Powerful send-off, right?
Yeah, pretty good send-off.
Power rating send-off.
Be a pretty good final Pac-12 championship game just due north of us at Allegiant Stadium in early December, regardless of who.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that we've got so many events, I'm glad you brought that up because, again, we know that we've got fights here. Of course, we've got the Formula One race coming up this November, the week before Thanksgiving here in Las Vegas, but the big one's going to be the Super Bowl this year, right? And what will follow that, Jeff, is within a few years we'll have a Final Four. I mean, that's just how things are, and it's amazing to see and to think about, because there was a time when Las Vegas was so taboo, right? I mean, it was between the NCAA and the professional leagues, especially the NFL. I'm glad that's behind us. And, nobody puts on an event like Las Vegas, let's face it.
F1 race in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, the traffic will slow down, hopefully.
I hope we have a few less cones. That'll help.
A few less traffic cones.
We have more cones than games around here.
You beat my line. I was going to say we have more cones per capita than anywhere else in the world.
No question.
But F1 in November, Super Bowl February, like you said. And, I mean, the NCAA, it's pretty amazing to think that they will actually have a Final Four here in a few years, but we're there.
And we've had multiple conference championships here for the NCAA tournament.
Sweet 16 a year ago as
well.
Yeah,
regional. I've got the Pac-12 tournament here again now. When that realignment occurs, listen, obviously we're not going to have. I don't think we'll have a Power Five. I guess it'll depend on
what happens.
What happened? The ACC is going to impact that, how that conference adjusts, and you know what? In the background, we pay. Here in Las Vegas, pay attention to how things are going to shake out with the Mountain West, right? And particularly, there's still a couple of teams from the Pac-12 that have not committed to what they're going to do next year. So you may see the Mountain West expand a bit. Will it rival the Big Ten and the SEC? No, but you know what? It's still going to. I think it'll be better, particularly with some of the teams. I think they'll add some teams, and I think they'll make it better. But go ahead.
Let's get back into these games for today,
Let's do
Vinny. We mentioned this yesterday with Chris. Florida State Boston College, a big mover because of the weather up in the Northeast. Heavy winds, the big concern today in Chestnut Hill. Vinny, this is down to 25.5 on FSU, all the way down from 4 full touchdowns. And that total, 47.5 in a wind game with an offense like Boston College that is not particularly good, still feels like, again, you missed the best of it, obviously. Still don't have a problem if you want to take a shot on the under. I really don't.
Well, yeah, we did open at 48. It did get as low as 46 yesterday. I think we were on the air with Chris and Jimmy, and it did get as low as 46. So coming back up today, again, the wind, the factors that impact totals are obviously snow or rain, but more so the wind. And I think the wind, by virtue of the hurricane, is probably the factor. But maybe the wind is adjusted. I know yesterday
it's not as bad.
Yesterday, I think it was closer to 35, 40 miles an hour. I think it's lesser today, isn't it?
It was 30 on the report yesterday. Today, it is 20 to 25.
Yeah.
With a gust up to 40.
And we're also starting to see the favorite come back up, right? Yep. 28, we were as low as 24, now back up to 20. Just went to 25 and a half here at South Point. So, again, give you these updates in real time as the money is coming in at the counter and over the phones right here at the South Point.
Boston College, again, losing last week to Holy Cross. Not a good start to the year for the Eagles.
Yeah, I know it's I think some folks were surprised there were we did not have them highly rated, and I think we had them from our conference win totals. That's what we did here at the South Point, not season win totals, but tweaked it a little bit just for conference games, and they were at the bottom of the ACC at about 1.5.
Let me rephrase that. Not covering a week ago against Holy Cross, losing week 1 to Northern Illinois, 1-1 on the season for Boston College. All right, Vinny, let's go to Indianapolis next. Indiana makes the trek up from Bloomington, Louisville, in town to take on the Hoosiers. Brom's team is a 10-point favorite in this game, an Indiana home game in Indianapolis here, total 50.5, Vinny.
Yeah, it's pretty steady, Jeff. I got to, we opened this game on Monday morning at 9.5 with the Cardinals favored. It went to 10. It's been at 10 most of the week, so pretty good two-way action on this one. Overall, 52.5, not a lot of movement on the total. Did get bet down from the opener of 52. We went down to 50.5, but now we're starting to see more over money. And that doesn't surprise me. The public loves to typically bet overs and root for points. So now, not that the public never bets unders either, and that professionals always bet unders. But as we talk about, and if you're going to make money in college or pro football, look for your spots to bet the unders. But in this one here, pretty good two-way action on both the side and the total.
Nothing for me. Nothing for me.
Not interested.
Indiana's they're the weakest team in the Big Ten. Other than Northwestern. Northwestern's the worst team in that conference. And Louisville again. I love Brom. He's an excellent coach, but it's year 1 still. Everyone getting on board with the system. Not much of anything for me on that one. Let's go to this one, Vinny. Iowa State, a rare Power 5 at MAC. Iowa State, Ohio. Iowa State played exactly the game you would have expected last week against Iowa in the Cyhawk. Iowa winning. Game going under the ridiculously low total of 36 last week. Now they go on the road. Clones are laying 2.5, Vinny, and the total, you guys are market low and the total at 41 in this one.
Yep, all the way down from 44. So I think, look, we've seen, it looks a little surprising too. When you first look at this, you look at this and say, wait a second, we've got a Power 5 school, we got a Big 12 school going against a MAC team. How could the number only, we opened at 3, and it's, toggling back and forth between 3 and 2.5. They're taking the 3 with Ohio and laying the 2.5. The total is a move more, Jeff, and down 3 points. But, Iowa State, they struggle to score points. Let's face it, offensively, we've seen it so far.
Signs that we're all getting older. Anthony Beck's kid, Rocco Beck, now the quarterback there at Iowa State. You have to, and I'm sure it'll segue later into the show when we get to it, because,
you remember when dads were playing. Chris, Jimmy, and I remember when grandparents were playing. How about that?
Great for me. I remember when Anthony.
Thanks for that.
I remember when Anthony Beck was drafted by the Jets.
Somebody get my vitamins. That's why I don't drink. This is why I drink caffeine. No decaf for Vinny.
We'll get you your vitamin C.
Thank you.
We'll get you that before the show's over. I want to hit one more before we hit a break. Actually, 2 more before we hit a break.
Okay.
Penn State, Illinois. This was a game of the year for you guys.
Yep.
The Illini, unimpressive in a win against Toledo in week 1, even though I think Toledo is a good football team, especially at the MAC level. And then last week, Kansas handled their business at home against Illinois. Penn State's 2-0, cover at the gun against West Virginia, and a beatdown of FCS Delaware a week ago. Vinny, you guys are sitting at 14 right now. A little less than an hour from kicking champagne with a total of 47.5.
14.
The Disney Lions favorite.
Did get as high as 15,
Yep.
but right now holding steady at 14, Jeff. So overall, look, pretty good two-way on the game. 47.5 just went down from 48.5, so a little bit of a move there. And you mentioned the games of the year. This is an exercise, as I touched on early today. Chris and I here at South Point put up games of the year. We identify games by week. And again, test our early power ratings against very respected professional opinions. This was a game where we opened Penn State 8, got bet up to 9.5 last summer. And we did have to wait this year, a little bit of a footnote. We had to wait this year to put up the games of the year. A few years ago, when we started to put these up, we put them up in May. We had to wait a couple of months this year, simply because the transfer portal, a big impact. And so we learned an expensive lesson. So it's but a good exercise nonetheless.
One last one here, and this one, it seems like everyone is on Missouri in this game.
That's because of you,
and of course not me.
Your alma mater,
and the alma mater. I should have lost last week to Middle Tennessee State. K-State very impressive a week ago against Troy with a win and a cover in Manhattan. We saw this matchup a year ago. K-State at home, massive weather delay in that game. K-State wins comfortably, covers that game a year ago. Tigers down to 3.5-point dogs in this one. You guys are also market high on the total now, Vinny, at 48 with just moved.
48 just came down. We did get as high as 49.5 yesterday, so now we'll move to the under here, Jeff. And you mentioned it. Yesterday we took, what's interesting about this game, pros have gone with Missouri early on. They took 5.5. They took 5. We got down to 4. And yesterday, right before we came on the air, Chris and I, and then Jimmy Vaccaro came in. He had a ticket where a gentleman, professional player, took the plus the 4. Not only, pretty convinced, a lot of conviction for your alma mater right now, sitting at 3.5.
Good luck.
Point dogs.
Good luck. That's all I'll say.
All right. Well, we wish you the best, buddy.
I'm on Kansas State. Just so you know.
Does your alma mater know that? They just hope we didn't get turned off in Missouri now.
Won't be the first time. Won't be the last time I'll go against the Tigers.
That's right. You've got.
I can tell you that right now.
Be objective.
Hey,
don't be a homer.
You got to be. You got to be a little bit objective. Hey, look, I'll take a number that I thought Chris's opener was right for what it's worth on this game. I thought that number was right where you guys opened. Chris brought this up on the show yesterday.
Yeah,
5 and 5.5 in the market. Chris picked the higher number at 5.5. I thought that was right.
When you say that too, right, compared to what your opinion is, right, and which is important because let me just clarify, because what professionals do is they make numbers, and they compare what's posted here,
right.
or, particularly the openers, and they compare, and then they make their selections. Right, wrong. We oftentimes hear, hey, you know what, you guys were wrong on this. Okay, we're still open. And why are the bookmakers smiling?
Well, first off, you guys are always
not to be smug about it. I mean, listen, we're not going to be right on, and every game is not going to hit exactly on the number, right? It's about how games get bet, and the more games, the more action. That's fine.
Vinny, I'll ask you about Colorado later in the show. I can do that.
The big game, the Air Force game.
Oh yeah, that one.
Right, the big game.
That's the big one in Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the big one. We have more to get to. LSU, Mississippi State. Notre Dame's a huge favorite, and I'm not going to forget my home state. Rutgers in action against Virginia Tech a little bit later today. We'll break those games down and more when we come back. South Point Studios, the site. The show is Sports by the Book. Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. Authentic sports talk as always. I'm Jeff Parles. Vinny Magliulo alongside the Hall of Famer, Gone Gaming. 40-plus years of experience behind the counter.
45 years here in Las Vegas, yes. That's right. So between Chris, Jimmy, and I, we calculated it out. 137 years.
You guys would be 6 feet under for a long time if you were one person.
Thanks for that. Didn't even get through the show. I'm dead and buried. Jesus. I know Halloween's coming. What are you going to put a tombstone over here?
I know.
Hey, go.
See ya. I'm out of here. No, but in all seriousness, just loads of experience here on this show. When Vinny, Chris, Jimmy, like you said, over 130 years between the three of you. Reason there's always a line here on
got
Saturdays and
our
Sundays.
start with Michael Gaughan, gave us our start, and here we are back with him and the Gaughan family. So it's terrific.
Vinny, let's keep it rolling here. LSU, Mississippi State. I don't want to touch on this for this long because this has been as static of a game as there's been on the board the whole week.
Yeah.
LSU, 9.5-point favorites. It touched 10 for maybe 30 minutes a few days ago.
Barely,
went back to 9.5 and opened 54.5 down to 53.5 and then back quickly to 54. And it's been there for a day plus on the total.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty good two-way action here, Jeff. So not a lot to. I mean, I think these are a couple of teams that are, it's kind of an identity game, right? Teams still trying to figure things out a bit, and you got a conference game here. Who's there more pressure on? Maybe LSU, because I think so many folks had had higher expectations for Kelly by now. And look, we have to see how they respond. Forget about last week, but to that first game against Florida State. So, but as far as the betting on this game, pretty good two-way action, and as you mentioned, holding steady at 9.5 and 54.
Like you said, two-way action. You will see static lines when it's a good two-way action game.
Yeah, and again, ideally, people think we strive for equal amounts of action, right? Balanced action. It doesn't work. I mean, how many games really have balanced action when you look at today's schedule? Less than 10%, maybe 5% of games. What you do is you book the action, and you just hope to split out the other games and utilize the 110 VIG, and that's it. And just have people just keep churning, writing tickets.
Let's go to Piscataway next, Vinny. Virginia Tech, Rutgers, the game we've all been waiting for, right? That's what it is. Rutgers is 2-0. The Hokies last week fall to Purdue at home. So this one is 7. This hasn't moved since Monday on the spread.
Mm-hmm.
Went down to 6.5 and then back up to 7. Hasn't moved. Total is 38, a pretty darn low total for a college game. There are injury questions potentially for Virginia Tech, especially at the quarterback position.
Yeah, Grant Wells, big question mark there. Probably a game time decision. And look, I think that's what folks are going to wait for just to see before they commit. 12:30 Pacific start, Jeff. But again, another game like the last one we talked about, like the LSU game, pretty steady, holding steady at 7 with the total of 38. Very low total here.
Let's go to Tampa next, Vinny. Alabama off their loss. Very bizarre spot for a true road game, technically. Even though this is really just a vacation game more than anything for Alabama going to Tampa. The big news here, so this is 34, by the way. Yeah. Alabama laying it. 61 is the total. Buckner, the Notre Dame transfer, is going to get the start. So Jalen Milroe, after a lackluster performance in a loss to Texas last week, is going to the bench. And this is something you're going to be you're going to have to monitor over the next few weeks for Alabama. We expect at some point to see Ty Simpson as well, Vinny. It's a new age there in Tuscaloosa, at least for 2023.
Well, they've had consistency and a steady presence sequentially, right? As quarterbacks graduate, there's always been a very consistent presence under center. But we really started to get wind of things and a difference at quarterback for Alabama during the spring, right? When Nick Saban, and I've said this several times, you had the biggest note that Chrissy and I took about Alabama was when Nick Saban went out after the spring game and signed another quarterback, right? He signed Buckner here to after the spring game, right? The transfer portal was still active, and he goes out and he gets him. And now, you know what? It's a situation where I don't think it's the quarterback play as much as it is maybe the offensive line.
Okay.
So you say, well, if it's not the quarterback, it's a matter of how the offensive line and the quarterback blend. So take a shot now, right? I mean, this is a situation where Saban knows he can absolutely not afford another loss. Next year is going to be different. When we go to the 12-team playoff, teams can handle a loss early or at any point during the season. But this year they cannot afford it. So he's making the adjustment here. Again, this is a game that's probably good to start it. Again, as you see, 34, holding pretty steady, but 61 on the total, and that's predicated. That's a correlation right to the number on the game.
That is again a 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific start time in Tampa. Alabama hasn't gone out on the road much in non-con play. Of course, they went last year to Austin, won that game, but different type of road game against a team that is not any good in the Bowls of South Florida. All right, let's go to Chapel Hill next. Another one of the games of the year, I should say, that you guys had here, Vinny. Minnesota, North Carolina, down to 7 now, total 51.
Open 7.5, Jeff. The total 50, so not a lot of movement here. Holding steady at 7. You mentioned the game of the year. We used North Carolina 3, and it wasn't any movement. It was a pretty good two-way action on that game of the year when we put it up. So this one here, midday, 12:30. Look for North Carolina here to continue to just try to push the ball downfield and score. We know they can score points, and they're certainly proficient at it.
This is a big-time contrast to styles.
Yes.
This game, where Minnesota is going to want to just ground you down, run the clock out as much as humanly possible in UNC. Drake May, potentially number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft next year. I don't see it because I would just take Caleb Williams 1. Well, but he's going to be a top 5 pick if he comes out.
1 and 1A, right? Just like last year in the NFL draft. Although I think this draft class is probably more quarterback rich, I should say.
More depth, sure.
And I think we'll see that as the focus when we get to the NFL draft next April.
Let's keep it in Tobacco Road here, Vinny. Northwestern. Duke here, the matchup. Duke is a 17-point favorite. 48 is the total. You guys are market high on that. This Duke team, I have to give Mike Elko a lot of credit.
Yeah.
Because he inherited a team where David Cutcliffe was at the end of his career. He just wasn't the same guy that he was when he got there and turned things around in Durham. And they make a bowl game a year ago, and they were pretty competitive. And this year they opened it up with the biggest win Duke has had in a very long time with beating Clemson week 1.
Storm the field in game 1.
Yeah, well, look, it's I
get it.
Why not?
I get it.
Yeah. Why not? Clemson's still the big dog in the conference, at least going into the year. Vinny, this is an interesting spot for Duke against a Northwestern team. It's a Power 5 team, but they won last week against UTEP with a big second half, but this is not a good football team.
Well, you hit on it too. I mean, it's a contrast in styles, right? I mean, Minnesota's is certainly not going to want to get into a shootout. I'm sorry, Northwestern is certainly not going to want to get into a shootout. So, again, just like the last game, but 17 on the number. They took 19, they took 18, and it's a play on points, grabbing as many points as possible, hoping that that in this case Northwestern can dictate the pace and keep it close.
I have nothing on this game for what it's worth, but I like Riley Leonard. I think Riley Leonard is a really good college quarterback. And in a conference that in the ACC, look, Florida State's a legitimate top 5 caliber team.
Yes.
There's no arguing that. After that conference is very much wide open.
Wide open. And we talked about the SEC kind of in transition. You've got Georgia, although the SEC is certainly better, has a stronger power rating as a conference. But the ACC is going through a transition. I think we're going to see it right into the offseason and into next year as they try to figure out how to deal with the expansions of the Big Ten and the SEC. And again, it's okay if you don't have a play on this game. Do you look in game maybe, or you look at halftime to see what's happening? You pay attention that way too, so you have the options there, or just a pass, right? You don't have to bet every game. You don't have to bet every game.
I don't have to bet every game. You have to book them all, though.
That's okay.
So I'll just ask you, ACC power ratings wise, Vinny, right now. Florida State's clearly at the top for you guys.
Yeah.
Clemson is still number 2.
Clemson is still number 2.
And then after that,
and then it's
a whole. I would say Miami's probably number 3, right?
Yeah, Miami's Miami's Miami.
Miami's
Those are your top three.
Yeah, it's close though. Miami.
Yeah.
Miami.
But again, it's not what it was just a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, no, it's not as top heavy anymore. Especially
balance is good too. For
bad,
business. Yeah,
not a bad thing. All right, let's hit one more before we bring Alex White on set here. San Diego State, Oregon State. This just kind of shows a few things here: the strength of the Pac-12 for one, and the fact that San Diego State has gone way backwards in a very quick period of time. Oregon State, mid-tier Pac-12 team, is a 25-point favorite at home against the Aztecs in a game that is only totaled at 48.
Speaks to what we mentioned at the top about how strong, really, as a conference, the Pac-12 is in this swan song season. So, yeah, 25, open 24, 24 and a half. It got up to 26 in some spots. 48. Look, I think if you're looking at San Diego State here, you're hoping that maybe Oregon State is in a look ahead mode. But again, maybe another game that you just take a look at. There's something for everybody too, Jeff. Again, especially with the in game, which continues to get more attention, particularly with the app too. So, and there's a lot of ways to shop for the in game too. Who books it? "Quote unquote" live, or who books it with the algorithms, which certainly is something that we'll get into down the road. But we'll talk about that with the options.
Absolutely. Again, shopping around is critical.
Yeah,
if you're going to make money in this, you got to
make
shop
money.
around.
And I welcome and encourage people to shop.
Absolutely,
creates more business.
Oh, helps everyone.
That's right.
Helps everyone.
Yeah.
He's Vinny Magliulo. I'm Jeff Parles. We're going to keep it rolling. Sports by the book here at the South Point studio. Coming up next, Alex White, sports betting analyst, is going to join us on set. Hey, it's the third week of the college football season. We're happy to be with you here at the South Point studio. Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio. Happy to be with you. A college football Saturday. I'm Jeff Parles, Vinny Magliulo alongside, and on the far side of the desk, betting analyst Alex White with us right now. Alex, pleasure to have you in.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Welcome.
Week 3, college football.
That's right. So we were talking earlier. You're remembering when fathers were playing, right? Full disclosure, Alex's father and grandfather are friends of mine. I remember when her grandfather was betting when I was breaking into the business, Jimmy Vaccaro, Chris and I, and of course her dad, Kenny White, very respected odds maker, has terrific power ratings. We'll be hearing from Kenny during the course of the season for sure, and terrific softball player. We played a few games together. So welcome, Alex. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you, and thank you for that introduction. I like to say that all the time. Third generation sports bettor here.
That's right. Very good.
You threw the softball in there. I was not expecting that.
Oh, yeah, the Battle and Bookie softball team. Legendary, particularly for the post-game activities.
Oh, I wouldn't have expected anything else, Vinny.
Quick story, I'll tell you. So
Please.
we'll tell stories during a bit. So we were playing a game one time, and we were playing against a team of Metropolitan Police officers.
Okay.
And we were taking it to them pretty good. And at the time, cell phones were early in the development. Well, we had beepers. Well, our beepers are going off, and lines are moving. So we're trying. The cops stopped the game and called into headquarters to see if we were booking. To do some background checks. Stop the game in the middle of the game to run background checks to make sure we weren't running an illegal bookmaking operation. Pounded them.
That was the excuse?
That's what they said, but
That's the excuse.
Didn't stop us either. Obviously, had to show our sheriff's car. It was great.
That's pretty
Anyway,
good.
Go ahead.
That's pretty good. All right, Alex. 3 games you like here today, and of course, let's start with the game featuring my alma mater, Missouri K-State, down to 3.5 now. So, Alex, you and I talked on Thursday about basically making sure you hop in at the right time, and for an NFL game later this week that you'll talk about it with us tomorrow because you'll be with us tomorrow as well. You got in on the right time on one of those games. Did you get in on the right time here with Missouri? Because now 3.5 as opposed to 4.5, as we know, gigantic difference.
That is right. So I actually am right in the middle. I got 4, but
Okay.
I do have Missouri +5 and +5.5 in some contests. So
Okay.
really rooting for those. So you mentioned when I, was sitting here watching you guys start out, but they lost pretty badly last year to Kansas State. So I'm looking at the revenge factor here for Missouri. A big rivalry game, and Brady Cook, he's experienced. He's been playing for 3 years now, so I like them. I'm taking the points, and we'll see. They have a good balanced offense, both passing and rushing.
You like the favorite.
I like the favorite.
She likes the dog.
Well,
Two-way action. The bookmaker's dream.
Here we go.
Here's the thing, though, Vinny. She can win her contest plays.
I
The
can.
game can land 4. She
Sure.
can get her money back on 4, and I can win on my 3.5.
You can, absolutely.
And that's the bookmaker's nightmare.
And that's what you want, right?
Yeah, you had to bring that up. And then there's that.
Yeah, you
Yes.
want that, right?
And there's that. But I think
we all win then.
What's
right?
important is it also so Alex, you make your own numbers and you compare, and that's you have your own power ratings, right? And so that's how you're basing, or has a lot to do with what you're basing your bet making decision on.
Right. So I made Kansas State a 1-point favorite, and I may have them undervalued, and I will find out today. And if that is the case, I will have to adjust for next week. But so I made them -1, so I see value there, especially taking the 5.5 in the contest, and then even the 4.
There you go. See,
What just I don't want you to have to pull the curtain back so much, but when you're going through making your numbers, how's your process on that?
So I learned from my dad and my grandpa, and their power rating system is very much each player has a power rating that makes, the team's power rating. So I've worked with them a lot, and I am very fortunate to be under their wing. And these first 2 years of really doing this, learning from them.
Okay.
You make your adjustments after
Yes.
today's games. That's when you'll go back in and start making your adjustments.
Yes,
There you
based
go.
off of the result of the game and the bookmakers. I used the line to see where they were, and because you guys are pretty good. Got to respect that. And
Thank you, Alex.
you're welcome.
All right, one set already.
Don't
sucking
interrupt
up to
her. Keep
Vinny. There we go.
going.
Hey, Alex, we're going to keep it in the SEC here, Mississippi State, LSU. So we were talking earlier in the show. This line has been pretty static, as Vinny would say. The perfect two-way action in this game for LSU and Mississippi State. 9.5 right now behind us here at the South Point. Total 54. What direction you're looking at here?
So I am looking at Mississippi State. I made LSU a 6-point favorite. So I'm getting 3.5-point value there. I did look back though and used my dad's line. He made LSU -4.5. So when I compare, I really like when we're on the same side. I am curious though, two-way action. Is it public versus pros, or
No, not really. In this one, that's a good question too, because the greatest example recently of the public versus the professionals, pros versus Joes, was last week with the Colorado game. I mean, pros were all over Nebraska last week, public as they were in week 1, and even today on Deion Sanders' squad in Colorado, but. Not really here. It's also, I think, in some folks' minds, Alex, kind of a wait and see a little bit. I think this game may do more in game than pregame, and that happens sometimes. And especially if a game has a static number, a number that's pretty consistent.
Again, I have absolutely no action on it.
There you go. That's good. You don't have to.
Remember,
You don't have to bet every game.
And thankfully, I don't.
Yeah.
Because it would not be good if I bet it.
Somebody else will, but that.
I know.
Keep us busy.
Back there that probably have bets on every single game going at 9 o'clock local time here, Vinny.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They'll
have them.
They'll
have those 10. They'll have the 10-game parlays that you make a lot of money on.
They'll have the. What are you worried about? How much? What are you counting our money? Count your own money. Don't worry about it.
I'm just playing in the field here, right? Playing in the field. All right, Alex, let's get one more. We have not talked about this game yet, actually. So East Lansing, the site for this one. Mel Tucker suspended. A lot of things going on off the field right now with the Spartans and Mel Tucker. So This one right now, Alex, is sitting at 16.5. UW laying it on the road in East Lansing. We saw this matchup a year ago in Seattle. Washington handled their business and now won 56.5. You're thinking too many points here, though.
I'm thinking way too many points. So I would like to talk to Vinny about this because I made Washington -7. I stayed away from Michigan State last week because of, the off the field stuff, and they covered. And now it's their third home game in a row, so getting 16.5, I like it.
Strictly a power rating, from our side of it, and again, it's important to what you bring up, Alex. No power ratings are the same. Even from our side of the counter, I think what's important for us. So when Chris, Jimmy, and I are making prices, if we, will we be the same on some games or close on some games? Yes, but I would worry if, frankly, every game was exactly the same by all of us. Same with you. You and your dad respected opinions. Frankly, if you're saying that we've got that much of a difference here, no, which is fine. It's look, and you have the ability to back your opinion. Maybe, frankly, I'll sit and say, did I miss something? I don't think so right now because I think there's also a wait and see approach to this game by a lot of people. It hasn't moved that much. This may be another example of an in-game opportunity. And again, in-game can include, the second half. People will watch it and say, let me see what's going on. Let me see the emotional aspect of, the Spartans in this case. So, but to your point, look, it was strictly, home field. Again, not all are created equal, but this one here, and again, based on what happened last year, does the team rally? Maybe their psyche is, look, you know what, let's take an us against the world type thing. Let's rally around each other. We've got each other. Let's go out and see. So, but it's good. I'm note check power ratings on this.
As
game.
I am as well.
For me, Washington's offense, one of the 5 best offenses.
Yeah.
Kalen DeBoer coming over from Fresno State, got it going quickly after the Jimmy Lake era did not work. Let's just put it politely with that. Did not work in Seattle. And Michael Penix, when he has been on the field in his collegiate career, because he dealt with a lot of injuries at Indiana, has always been a high-level quarterback. For me in this one, I have no idea what I'm getting out of Michigan State. That's why I crossed this out immediately.
Yeah.
This could very easily be Michigan State comes out like Vinny said, maybe, all right, we're playing for ourselves today. Doesn't matter that our coach is not there. We're playing for ourselves. We're playing for our own pride.
Right.
And they played a game close, and you have a pretty easy cover if Michigan State comes out and plays well. Or this could work the other way where it's, okay, our coach is suspended. He clearly is not the guy that recruited us, and they get annihilated. So this is one of those where just because of the off-field aspects, I didn't want to touch this at all. For me, Washington is a much better football team. My numbers had this closer to what the numbers are right now, had it at 14. But the off-the-field stuff, I just couldn't do it.
It is tough.
Yeah.
You never know.
By the way, you mentioned Washington. I want to point out another prop that we've got here for available. We've done it
South Point exclusive
in the last several years, where we obviously have futures up, so you can bet a team to win the national championship. But we also put in groups. We group some teams that you can select. Now, let me just throw you the 4 groups real quickly: Georgia, Penn State, Texas A&M, Washington, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin. One group opened at +180, has gotten attention, and is the favorite at +160 now. USC, Michigan, LSU, Clemson, Texas, and Utah at almost just under 2-1 on the opener at +190. Now sitting at 2-1. Ohio State, Alabama, Florida State, Tennessee, Notre Dame, and Oregon +185. A little bit of a move down at +180. And the field, everybody else, all other D1 schools at 18-1. So you have the ability to group teams in your futures here at the South Point as well. This is something that's worked out. We actually started this, about when Chris got here about 7 years ago. We did it with college basketball, and then we added it to the pro football, to the college football side, and it's been well received.
Always a fun one.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's good.
Always a fun one.
You have another option in the futures.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll wrap things up when we come back. A few more games to get to. Alex White will stick around. Vinny Magliulo. Hey, you have no choice. You have to stay.
I'm here.
You have to stay. I'm Jeff Parles. I also have to stay here. We have a few more minutes. Final thoughts for the rest of the college football Saturday slate, week 3, Sports by the Book, here at the South Point Studio. Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. Final segment for us here today. Again, thank you to everyone who reached out via social media yesterday with our debut. We are very happy to be here. Going to be with you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, moving forward. Tomorrow, Vinny and I are back, and Alex will be here as well for a little bit of the show. 9 to 10 Pacific time, leading you right into week 2, Sunday of the National Football League action. So we'll be here tomorrow. Just make sure you follow us on social medias across the board to see what our schedule is going to be moving forward. It's going to be consistent for a little bit now, our shows, but we'll have more content as we go along. Vinny Magliulo is here. Alex White's here. I'm Jeff Parles. Final segment for us right now. Let's get back into it, Vinny. Number 1, Georgia. Number 1 in your power ratings. Huge favorite today against South Carolina. Vinny, I'll just ask you this, because I would imagine that there hasn't been much on this game since this number's been pretty consistent at 27, even though we're seeing some 26.5s pop now on this. How far ahead is Georgia to the rest of the country right now in the power ratings?
I think if you, on average, probably 6 to 8 points.
So that's a big number.
It's bigger than we've seen in recent years. And again, it's not just based on Alabama. In fact, I'll get my power ratings out here. My top 30. I mean, Alabama's still close. Probably 6 though, and I think as we get further into it now, here's a conference game here. I think an example, it hasn't moved much. I mean, I think some pros probably they were waiting for 28 for 4 touchdowns. It didn't quite get there, but 27. It's this side in total is held pretty steady, so not a lot of movement here. But Georgia, that gap will. I suspect though that power rating gap will probably lower as we get further into the season, as some other teams, like Florida State, in particular, and maybe somebody out of the Pac-12 starts asserting themselves.
Georgia's number 1 in your rankings as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
So now I'm thinking about your future bet there. What is Georgia to win by themselves? They've got to be a pretty heavy favorite.
Georgia is 4th, 350. Yeah, 7 to 2.
Okay.
So individually,
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rightful favorites.
Well, they are. They deserve
it. Until they're dethroned, the rightful favorites.
Until they get knocked off, and again, their schedule is very favorable too. When you look at their SEC schedule,
it is going to be a very much easy road to 12-0 for Georgia in the regular season. At least in my eyes, they could lose in Atlanta in the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
And that could create some havoc in the college football playoff rankings. But
if they get there, they can fade. They can handle that better than, say, Alabama getting beat last week against Texas.
Not even a debate.
So that's
Well, Alabama has to win out, because if you're not getting in with 2 losses this year.
No, not going to happen.
Especially if Texas is back and they actually go 12-1. They're getting in. Texas is getting in. They go 12-1 with that win against Alabama. All right, keep it in the SEC. The swamp we go, Vinny. The bettors are betting Florida down to 5.5. It's off 6 now. Total 56.5. Tennessee, of course, the favorite on the road in the swamp.
Yep. Another game of the year that we put up last spring. We had Tennessee as a 7-point favorite on that opener. They actually laid 7.5, and we went to 8 in the game of the year. Opened this game 6, and again got up to 6.5. But now we've seen money come in on Florida. They took the 6.5, they took the 6, and we're down to 5.5. So the total on this one down. Maybe that might surprise some folks to 56.5 off the 59 opener. I don't know if you have a preference in this one, Alex.
No play in this one. It makes me feel better. I have Tennessee -7 and the total at 60. So
-7 and 60. So you're pretty close on that. So that's a nice pass on that.
Yes.
Game. Florida again. This is a Florida team that is just. It's a far cry from a decade ago now with these Gators.
Yeah, and again, as these conference expansions and contractions occur, there's going to be a lot of transitioning with teams too, and how how recruiting and the transfer portal play out. Right, there's going to be, I think, and there are massive recruiting games. I mean, you look at the Texas-Alabama game last week. That's significant, right? I mean, especially with Texas going to the SEC. So the implications there kind of go beyond the individual games themselves.
Let's hit another one here, guys. Let's go to. Oh, this is for Chrissy and Jimmy. The backyard brawl.
Yeah.
Morgantown, West Virginia, to site Pitt at WVU. Vinny, this is a favorite flip.
Yeah.
Pitt opened 1. Now it's West Virginia 2.5 here behind us at the South Point Sportsbook. 47 the total. A nice a one-day move from 50 to 47 and hasn't moved in 4 days on the total.
Yeah, speaking of recruiting implications, right? I mean, these two teams vie for many of the same recruits. And Pittsburgh, we did open them as a 1-point favorite. It's been all West Virginia. This was a game of the year also that we had posted last spring. And we had Pitt as a 2-point favorite there. It didn't move. But now, I mean, it's, again, but folks also have had the benefit of seeing a couple of games with these teams too. So, Alex, I don't know if you have a preference in this one, but this one, again, it's not unusual with short spreads to have a flip of favorites.
So I did make this game a pick, so I haven't touched it. But total-wise, I do have a question for you because you mentioned it opened at
50
down to 47.
50, so I made it 54. So it's going the opposite way of me, but I should not jump on the over now, right?
Well, if you were to play the over, you would get the best of it, obviously, right? Because of the fact that it has come down 3 points, maybe 3.5 in some spots. But that's a good point that you bring up. You're watching the openers, not just in terms of the spread, but also in terms of the totals. And I know you and your dad pay very close attention to totals. Your dad is exceptional with his total numbers and his plays. So if you were to look at the total, probably not going to bet it under now because you missed out on the higher numbers. But maybe now, if you could have gotten better than 50, would you go over 47 and maybe look for it to land it? Maybe that would be a consideration as well, but certainly not the under at this point.
Definitely not.
I for what it's worth, I made West Virginia 3. So I did take pick earlier in the week on West Virginia. And that will probably mean Pittsburgh will win by 2 touchdowns. But that's a different time for a different day. All right, let's hit one more game before we get 2 totals from Alex and then one thing from me on a play. Vinny, Coach Prime, heard of him?
I thought you were going to talk about the other game in Colorado, the Air Force game. But this is listen. Deion Sanders is just been an absolute. It's a terrific story, right? And of course, this game here, in-state, right? Yeah, it's 24, and I think that's what a lot of pros would probably be looking for. 3.5 touchdowns. And that's public money that's driven it. There's no question about it. Hey, you can't deny what this team has done so far. Is it? I don't know if it's a look ahead spot given the coach. What's gone back and forth between the coaches this week, and again the in-state rivalry aspect because we know that they begin conference play next week, the Buffaloes. But this is a game that, and here it is in prime time too, right? So that tells you how much interest there is, not just from a viewership standpoint, but from a betting standpoint as well.
College game day in Boulder, big noon Saturday in Boulder. I mean, just everyone descending upon Boulder, Colorado, a place that it's been a rough go of it up until Deion got there, and now Colorado 2-0, big favorites to move to 3-0 before. Boy, Vinny, I am not going to ask you to give me a what you think will open with the Oregon because we have to see today's action. But,
you want to see, look,
Oregon is going to be a 2-score favorite at least.
Power rating wise, it'll surprise some folks. It's a double-digit number, but again, we'll have to see. You want to see how particularly how Colorado comes out of the game. Their injuries or things that could have implications as well.
All right, Alex. Before we go, you have a few totals that you like today.
Yeah, I'm going to give out my favorite under. I heard Vinny mention that look for unders, and it's actually UTEP, Arizona. Under
final game of the night.
Final game of the night, under 56.5. So UTEP has not been very good this year. They are averaging 16 points a game. And then Arizona, they had a tough loss last week in overtime. I made it 51.5. So I'm looking at under 56.5.
Well, if you like 56.5,
You like 57.5,
57.5, even better.
There
There
you
you go.
go.
Good, Alex.
And then for me, the only thing that I haven't talked about today that I do like, Wyoming is getting 30 at some shops. You're down to 29. You were at 30 last night on this game. You know, Texas is legitimately a top 5 talent team in the country. I don't think there's any arguing that anymore after what we saw last week in Tuscaloosa. But that is a brutal spot for Texas, coming off of the biggest win they have had in a very long time. They's a very well-coached team that, by the way, beat Texas Tech 2 weeks ago. Yes, it wasn't Laramie. This game's in Austin. But I'm getting whole 30 with Wyoming. All right. Go ahead, beat me by 5 scores, Texas. If you do, tip my hat, move to the next game. Very simple on it.
Situations coincide with numbers, and that, to your point.
Yeah, it's a brutal spot for Texas. They'll win, but 30, don't think so. It was a lot of fun today, wasn't it?
Good stuff. Great
Good
to
stuff
have
as
Alex
always.
with us. Welcome, Alex.
Alex will be with us tomorrow for the back half hour. Vinny and I tomorrow from the get-go, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here, wherever you're watching. We thank you all for being with us today. 9 to 10 tomorrow morning for Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio. For Alex White, for Vinny Magliulo, I'm Jeff Parles. For our crew as well, doing an incredible job. And Ryan, Jerry, we wouldn't be on the air without them back there.
Great job.
We'll see you next time. Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio.